Welcome, I'm Bill Wake. This is my weekly summary of the work I've been doing on Twitch. Lately, we've been working on a personal finance tool I'm calling Fiume. So this past week, we did a little work on the extremes. We made them so they were either income or expenses, no negative numbers, just one or the other type. We added names to our scenarios. So when you generate multiple scenarios from a situation we call possibilities, each scenario has an individual name based on its contents and unique name, so you can map from the graph to the corresponding scenario. We enhance dates to make them either a month number or unspecified, and if they're unspecified, the previous value shows through. We switched to Swift testing, which is a new testing framework. Kind of, I don't know if it's considered the prototype or the early release version for the next version, but we're going to try working with it anyway. And then we added a person notion, so a month, year, birth date, and death date may or may not be known. All right, let's go take a demo and do the code review. Okay, let's look at streams first. So we had a little validation, but I've got salary. I have to have that. Let's make this an income stream of 5,000 a month. If I make it expense, it's colored pink. And we'll make it start in month 24. All right, so you can see the scenario. There's a little bit of start time with no income to month 24, and then it comes in regularly. If you keep at it for 30 years, you get $1.5 million. Okay, let's add another one. So this one we specified the start date is 24. Let's take the same name. So we're doing an override, and we'll keep the same amount. But instead of starting a month 24, let's give it an end month 60. All right. So what we see is the scenario works its way through and accumulates information. So we said 24 and we didn't override that. So this end result, unspecified, goes to 60. The end result is an income for months 24 to 60. So here's 24, here's 60, and then it flat lines. That's how much you've had. We have no expenses, so miraculously we keep the money we got. All right. Another thing we added this week was the notion of people. So you have a choice. You can put their name in, Alice, and maybe she was born in, it's a little too young, 1989, okay, and whatever month. Okay, we don't know. She hasn't died yet, so we don't need to put anything in there. And we'll create her on the list. Okay, and so you can see we got March 89, and then we didn't specify the death date. So that's left question mark. All right, let's look at the code. So one notion we put in was this idea of a date specifier. And this is, so the stream, when you were picking the dates, you could either leave it unspecified or give it a month number. And as of right now, we're computing things in terms of month numbers. I think we're going to move more towards month and year, but I'm kind of working out how that all comes together. It's convenient for some things if you just make it simple month numbers and nobody has to work too hard to figure out what it is, but we'll see. All right, and then that gets used in the stream. So stream has a monthly amount, but the starting date and the end date determine how much do you get. So the first case of this, if we say how much did you earn in a given month, we want to know if it's before the stream's first month. So if I say don't start till month 12 and you ask for what are you making in month 7, the answer should be 0, and that's this first paragraph here. If the first month is unspecified, then we're going to go by the last month. And if that's unspecified, then we just say it's from start to end, the amount comes through. That's line 37. Or there is a last month, and we check if we're past it, it's 0. If we're in range, it's the monthly amount. So that works out pretty well. And then the next one we have is the merge. So we had 2 entries for salary, and some things were filled in that weren't before and vice versa. We have to make that adjustment or that merging. As of now, we're only doing dates, first date and last date. So if the newer date is unspecified, then we let the older date self show through. Otherwise, we take the newer one. Similarly, for the last date, we'll take, if unspecified, we'll take the last, and otherwise we'll take the newer. We build up a stream from that. So this is used when you're going from a list of possibilities or sort of a global statement of what you think is and could happen. And we generate individual scenarios for all the implied possibilities. And merging is part of that. Okay, so we started moving towards this notion of month year, and it's starting out very simple. There's just a month field and a year field. We have the month so you can print a name, and we have a less than function to decide if 1 month is less than the other. We just used it. Okay, and so if the year's the same, we look at the month. Otherwise, we can just look at the year. Now, that deserves a test, and this is where the new framework comes in. Testing instead of XC test, you can tag your test with that test, and the assertions are done with pound expect. So pound expect is a macro, and it's a very syntax aware macro. So it can know, hey, they're doing this greater than test. I should compute A and B separately and report on them if, rather than just saying, oh, this came out false, I can tell you what actually went on. All right, so let's make this wrong. So in the original here, we have A is greater than B. Let's take a date where it's not, 1500 maybe, and run those tests. It runs the usual way. I've got a command key that triggers that. I'll let that go a second here, but it's not integrated in completely. You can see I don't have little diamonds so I can test the individual ones or the whole struct. I expect that'll get fixed as they move to this new framework. Well, I'm hoping I think in the next week or so is the next version of WWDC. They'll probably announce some changes on things they usually do. And so, okay, so we do get the reports here though, and notice the failure is it knows A was 1500 and B was 1999, and it breaks those apart. So that's the syntax aware part. It knows the top level of a comparison. You probably want to see the two pieces and then decide. All right, and it does report on this test all just as a catch-all for any of the new style tests, but in the individual files, they do show them. All right, now we make a view for that, and the key thing is we're going to produce a month year. Let me turn the preview on. Okay, and so I guess the interesting things of this, there's a flag called known. So if you know the date, you turn the flag on, the toggle on, and we can run the tool and get it. If you don't know the date, we won't worry about it. Okay, and then for the wheels, those are pickers, and we have a qualifier here that makes it half width, so it's we can fit two of them in there. All right, and they do different things. One does the year and one does the month range. But in the preview, we can see if we turn this off, grayed out and present otherwise. All right, now the reason we added month year is because people are going to use it, and a person right now we have an ID just to keep them track of which ones are different. We have a name, a birth date, and a death date. Both of those are optional. We didn't wrap them up like date specifier with unspecified. We may need to do that. It's not totally clear to me, but given these people, you can you have a view that lets you there's a header. It's people with a little multiple people icon, and then individual items in the preview here. You can see them, the name, the birth date, and the death date if known. Okay, and that's all pretty straightforward. There's not, it's just showing showing some data. It's not doing anything with it. What will happen though is I want to be able to let you specify, like I'm collecting Social Security until my death date, whenever that is. But I'm going to say Bob's death, the end date for that is Bob's death date, not just its month 17 or something. So that'll make a little more flexible. And I think I'll make some sort of slider or something to let you adjust death dates and see the consequences. So a lot of times I think what you might do is create a plan and you've got some ideas about it, but you want to evaluate it for robustness, So what if I die, 4 years into collecting Social Security? Um, you know, it wouldn't make sense. If I'm waiting till 70, I'm not going to make any of that Social Security money if in that case. And what does that do to my spouse and so on? So, um, this notion of scenarios and then changing parameters to see whether they're robust or not. So this coming week, we're going to work on that start date being based on somebody's age or hypothetical death date or start date or end date, and see if we can tie those together. And then we're going to work on editing of fields and tree structure. So right now you can create things, but you can't rearrange them. That was us kind of pushing through. Now we need to go back in and fill in some capabilities. And then once that's done, if we get to it this week, we will. We'll introduce assets and liabilities. So a pool of money, like you might have a savings account with, money in it. You could start drawing it down when you retire and sort of turn it into a stream or fund a stream. Um, but we don't even have a way to say you've got this asset or this liability. So we'll work on that. All right, if you'd like to join us sometime, we're on Twitch daily, Monday through Thursday, 2 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time or 6 to 8:30 p.m. UTC. If you go to xp123.com/Twitch, we'll bounce it to the live session if it's during those hours. Otherwise, you could go to xp123.com/YouTube and you can find sessions about 2 weeks behind, maybe 3, time delayed, and then lightly edited if you want to catch up sometime. All right, thanks for watching. Hope you can join us sometime. Take care.